Folks, we are just a couple days away from Notre Dame hosting Texas A&M, the number 8 team versus the number 16 team in the AP poll, game that can be seen at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on NBC. Folks, hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel for more content. I'm going to ask Tyler this first question. Is it time for Mike Denbrock to unleash CJ Carr? We saw a lot of things in the short game against Miami. Let CJ chuck the ball downfield?
Yes and no. And the reason I say both answers there is because if I'm Notre Dame, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in this very video, I would love to just unleash the running game first and get your best offensive player involved from the very beginning. Jeremiah Love didn't really do that in the last game. I think he only had 3 carries, maybe 1 target in that first quarter. His usage as the game got a little tighter or a little more desperate for Notre Dame in the fourth quarter went up, but it was a little bit too late, too late, I should say, with Jeremiah Love. So get Jeremiah Love involved early, but also, I would love to see more of what CJ Carr did to Malachi Fields in terms of throwing the ball downfield, putting it up there, letting your tallest, most athletic wide receiver go make a catch. I think CJ Carr is more than capable of doing that in any given series. And you really only saw it on that one play, sans throwing the ball downfield to a wide open Eli Raridan. So get your wide receivers in some good position to make catches, and then let CJ Carr throw the ball because I think he's really good at it.
I need to craft a sentence that has sans in it. I love that. And, when Marcus was asked about CJ on Monday, he's like, CJ wants to chuck it. We got to hold him back from that. So if he was at the game console, he would be chucking it downfield. But I agree with Tyler. You need to have balance. Texas A&M has kind of struggled in both phases of the game. I think the run defense is their worst phase of the game. So you're always looking for mismatches and vulnerabilities to attack. But I think part of it will be the downfield passing game. I think we'll see some of that. And you don't have the same challenges as Miami. You have a weaker defense. You will have a friendly crowd as far as noise goes. And you will have a quarterback that has 60 snaps under his belt. And I think all those play into a more variable game plan.
Looking at the Miami game, I think everyone would agree, including the Notre Dame staff and players, like the O-line and D-line left more to be desired. Eric, do you think that, just a bye week and a change of opponent playing at home is going to, really kind of turn things around for the Irish?
Well, I think it'll help the offensive line. Those elements will help the offensive line alone more than the defensive line, because Texas A&M, we're used to them having really good defensive lines. They don't have that yet this year. They're 82nd in run defense against UTSA and Utah State. That's not impressive. And so I think just the change of opponent will help. But I do think, as good as Mike Denbrock is as an offensive coordinator with his offensive line background, I think they will take a step up. The defensive line has a real challenge. A&M's offensive line is really good. They have an All-American on their offensive line. They have a mobile quarterback, which is a different set of challenges. I'm less confident that we're going to see a big step up there, but I think an incremental step is needed and I think should be expected.
Yeah, I'll go in reverse order there. Start with the defensive line, because I'm a little bit with Eric in that I don't love the matchup against Marcel Reed, against a Texas A&M offense that I think is much better this year than it was last year when the Irish faced them in the first game of the season. Also, A&M has played 2 games, and if you had to pick, like Eric said, offensively or defensively, what are they better at right now? It's offense. They scored in the mid-40s in both of their games, and Marcel Reed looks way better than he did, say, in October of last year when he took over for this football team. So getting to him, I'm not sure it's going to be a cakewalk by any means. And look, Carson Beck he's a little bit more statuesque than Marcel Reed, and Notre Dame didn't even get to him. So the big thing probably with the Notre Dame defensive line is stop the run. And I do think they're capable of, playing to the crowd and getting some big stops. Say if it's 3rd and 3 and A&M decides to run it right up the middle, just get your big stops in this game. And then you could worry about improving as the season goes along at a later time. With the offensive line, you got to show up in this game. And it's for the reasons we talked about in that first segment with CJ Carr. You help him out when you get the running game going. You help out your Heisman Trophy candidate, which, by the way, He's not right now Jeremiah Love because the numbers wouldn't say that from that first game. But in terms of talent, he's every bit of a Heisman, talent. Get him going. So that starts up front with the offensive line. Just win the battles. I saw way too much of the line of scrimmage getting pushed backward when Notre Dame was on offense last week. Reverse that case, push it forward, and move the offense forward. That's how football works.
Yeah, and I would add they need to make an either-or on Gerby, Lambert, and Sullivan, not both of them. I think they got to pick one. I'd pick Gerby in this game.
Eric, let's keep it with you. Like, I feel like Notre Dame fans would be like, and no disrespect to Chris Ash, but against Marcel Reed, you would love to have Al Golden in some of the pressures that he would scheme up. I mean, do you think we'll see some things differently from both of those coordinators, Chris Ash and Mike Denbrock?
I think you have to. And I asked Marcus about his own process when he was defensive coordinator and coughed up 38 points to a very middling Florida State offense in his first game as defensive coordinator. And yeah, there's adjustments you have to make after game one and seeing what your team looks like in a game. And I think with Chris Ash, it's simplifying things. I think there was too much thinking, too much hesitation. And I think that's where we'll see some changes. I also think they need to be a little bit more creative with how they're bringing the pass rush. I'd like to see Jalen Sneed or Kingston Viliamu-Asa up on the line. Maybe kick one of the defensive ends like Bryce Young inside on third down. So that's where I would see, and then you would see them playing faster. That would be my recommendation to Chris Ash if he asked me.
And what about on the offense?
On the offense, Mike Denbrock doesn't have to take inventory. I mean, even though Mike Elko's calling the defense this year and Jay Bateman was last year, he's got a sense. He's going to get a feel in the first quarter, early in the first quarter, where to attack that Texas A&M defense. And then I think we'll see a much wider attack plan from Mike Denbrock. And I think it'll be fun to watch, and I think it'll put more points on the board than 24.
The buzzword, you guys remember a couple seasons ago, I think it was the Sam Hartman season, it was play action. Notre Dame's not using play action enough. This season already, through one game on defensively, it feels like, what's up with the zone defense this, zone defense that. We got to remember that how much man Notre Dame played in the last couple of seasons under Al Golden is a little bit of an anomaly if you look at what other teams do nationwide. So it's not uncommon for a team, even as talented as Notre Dame, to play as much zone as it did against Miami. It just was going against the grain of what Golden did. In this game, I think you might see just as much zone from this Chris Ash defense. If this is what they taught all of fall camp, and especially going against Marcel Reed, who, if you play some man and the play is long developing, and all of a sudden you got Notre Dame defensive backs with their backs turned to the ball, Marcel Reed can gash you for 10 here, 15 there. So I do kind of like a zone. I like a quarterback spy implemented. I think Notre Dame has athletic enough linebackers to kind of spy Reed and not let him get out there. And then, look, if he is this improved passer that A&M is saying, you're going to make him beat you as one and pinpoint the passes like Carson Beck did. I'm not sure he can do that. So I don't think a whole lot will be different, but I do agree with Eric in the sense that you got to play faster. You got to play more violent, physical. We heard all of that from Marcus Freeman, and I truly believe it. Offensively, I trust Mike Denbrock with schemes. Look, Marcus Freeman basically admitted that it was a handcuffed game plan for CJ Carr. I don't think you see that this week. I think you see a little bit more creativity. The one thing that I would like to see, more personnel. I mean, you can't play two running backs and then Jadarian Price goes out because of the fumble, and then you're basically playing one. Jeremiah Love was pressing in that game. I think Eli Raridan had too much on his shoulders as the only tight end to play in that game. Yeah. And look, I did a film review of Jeremiah Love's carries in that game. He was running behind Jordan Faison and Will Pauling on multiple goal line rushes, short yardage situations. Those guys both weigh 190 pounds soaking wet. Jordan Faison maybe 180 pounds soaking wet. Please put in some bigger personnel in short yardage situations and do what Notre Dame does. Run the football north-south, get the yards you need, get the points that you need.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for this video. Hit the thumbs up on it. Subscribe to the channel for more content. You can see more of these guys with their written coverage over at blueandgold.com. So make sure you head to the website and check it out.